All right, guys, speed test from a dead stop. Let's go. 20. 27. 30. 31. 31.
When the folks at Happy Run contacted me and they asked if I would be interested in reviewing their G60, I said, of course. But one thing I am not going to do is only tell you the good things about the products I review.
Bike lock, blinkers, battery key, charger, disc, toolkit, and the owner's manual.
So one thing you'll find on e-bikes of this class or this style is a 20-inch tire. It's a 20x4. The forks on this bike are of a dual crown type, so that just means they have the two stanchions right here. And moving on here to the blinkers, it does have functional blinkers on the left and the right. It has a daytime running light as well as a headlight on a switch up here on the bars. And since we're on the topic of the forks, these forks are adjustable. So here it has a compression adjuster, and on the other side, it has a preload adjustment. So you can adjust these forks and kind of dial them in for your riding type or style of comfort that you're looking for when you're riding this bike. The handlebars are pretty tall, a BMX type handlebar. They do accommodate the rider triangle pretty well when you think about how you're gonna sit on this bike, where your arms are to your knees and your back and ass on the seat. So they are a comfortable bar coupled with this seat. The battery here is a 48 volt, 24 amp hour battery. It is removable, and with most of these e-bikes, the removable battery is a must, because a good thing about having a removable battery, let's just say you want to charge the battery in your house, but you don't want to take the whole bike in your house, or you have an apartment and you don't want to take the bike all the way up the stairs to your apartment, and you can leave the bike below, just undo the battery, take the battery up, charge it, and when you're ready to go to work the next day, bring the battery back down, put it in the bike, and off you go. The rear shock, let me talk to you about the rear shock. This shock is loud, it is noisy, it is squeaky as you're riding this thing. It just squeaks, squeaks, squeaks. So if you want to replace this shock, you can do so just by buying one off of the Amazons. It is about 11.5 inches eye to eye, and you can get a replacement shock for this bike for about 40 to 50 bucks, and they range on up to the $100 or $150 range, depending on the shock that you go with, but the shock is easily removable and upgradable. On this bike, the controller is underneath the seat. It's keeping the rest of the bike nice and clean. The wires are all nice and tidy, all wrapped in this nice wrap. It is an eye-catching bike, and the style of this bike is something that I personally like. It does have a 7-speed Shimano shifter. It's pretty common on the e-bikes in this class. The shifter does not play a part if you are just using the bike for the electric feature. When this derailleur system is advantageous to have is, let's just say you run out of battery and you gotta pedal this bike home. Nobody wants to pedal a 100-pound bike. So if you do end up having to pedal this bike, having that derailleur is very helpful if you happen to get this bike home. The brakes on this bike are a hydraulic brake by DY Island on the front and the back. They stop you well. They're good enough for a bike in this price point. Are there better brakes? Sure. Are they great brakes? No, but they're good enough. If you're not new to e-bikes and you ever have to change your tire and there's not a motor connection between the controller and the motor, it's kind of a bad day. It kind of pisses you off. They thought ahead and they put a motor brake right here underneath the swing arm. So what that's gonna allow you to do is if you have to change your tire, you can take the tire off, you can take this wire, and this is gonna disconnect the motor from the controller, so you can change your tire easily. Some e-bikes do not have this connection and they are wired directly into the controller. So what that means is if you are out and about and you don't have a motor brake right here and you had to change your tire, you have to take the cabling all the way out and disconnect it from the controller, take the seat off, do the whole thing, pull that wire all the way through in order to take your tire off. With this bike, they got a brake right here, make it easy for you on your tire changes. That's everything from this side of the bike. On the outside of the bike, let's take a look at the bars and the display. All right guys, moving up here to the bars, you can see here, these are the DY Island brakes from the top. They have a metal lever. That's pretty nice. I've seen some hydraulic brakes with just plastic levers. Your bike tips over one time and your lever's shot. They got metal levers, a little more durable. Comfortable, I guess, just rubber grips. You can change these out if you don't like them. Super standard 7/8 inch handlebar. Right here is your high beam for your headlight, and there's an indicator on the dash here for your headlight. And it's also got your blinker indicator here, and it'll show you blinking. And it'll beep at you until you turn that blinker off. And what that's gonna do is keep you from forgetting that you have a blinker on, because I know you have all seen that motorcycle guy riding along with his blinker on because he forgot to turn it off. Here we have a horn, typical e-bike horn, surround horn. You see these on the Talarias. Over here is your 7-speed gear shifter, pretty standard, and your start button. So this button right here, this S, that is how you are going to turn the bike on. Just long press that button to turn it on, and it's also going to be your assist level mode on the display. We have a 5, and we can go through the system here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 5. And it's got a battery indicator here. The screen is a very nice screen, probably one of the nicer screens that I've seen on an e-bike. The only problem with it is you cannot read it if the sun is out. I'm in the shade a little bit right now. I wanted you guys to be able to see the screen, but if you're out and about and the sun is out, you cannot read this screen. And later in the video, I'll show you exactly what I mean. That's the unboxing. That's how you put it together. Those are some of the high-level details of the bike. Now, let's run it back and touch on a couple things that stand out to me. Now, the one thing I do like is the seating position of the bike. I like seats. If I can't ride the bike because the seat sucks, I ain't gonna ride the bike. That's the thing. These manufacturers are making bikes with seats that suck and people aren't gonna ride those bikes. So what's the point? This seat is comfortable, the riding position is comfortable, and at my age, I'm hitting 40. Oh, you know what? I'm already 40. I'm 41. I want a comfortable bike. I ain't gonna spend my time on a bike that ain't comfortable. This bike checks that box. I like the dual suspension. I like an adjustable front fork. The rear shock, it's got a rear shock. It's not a great shock, but it is a shock, and it does take some of the abuse off my back. I will be upgrading the shock, however. But a couple of the dislikes on this bike, I wouldn't be doing you a favor if I only gave you the likes. Like I said earlier, a couple of the dislikes, I can't read the screen when the sun is out. A couple of the welds on the bike are a little iffy. And I'll zoom in here so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Kind of the weld quality is not quite there in some areas. And the other thing is the shock. I wish the shock was a little bit better quality. It's really squeaky, it's really bouncy, it's spongy, it's not adjustable. I think you could probably put a better shock in here from the manufacturer without bumping up the price too much for the consumer. Anyway, let's get it out on the street. Let's get some final thoughts.
The seat is comfortable. The bar rise is perfect. The geometry of your hands to your knees to your feet is comfortable. You could ride this bike all day. And while I got you on the screen here and you're looking at the screen, one of the things that I don't like is the display. The display in the dark is beautiful. It is a well-crafted display. But to look at it right now, you can't see anything. It's in the shade. You see a little bit there when the shade hits, but during the day, I can't read the display at all. I've gotten this bike up to 32 miles an hour, which is faster than most of the e-bikes come out of the box. A lot of times you have to go through a settings unlock in order to get that speed out of the bike. This bike here came out of the box at 32 mile an hour top speed. It has a cruise control. See, now it's got a half twist throttle. When you hold that cruise control, or when you hold this throttle down for about 5 seconds, at one point the display will beep at you and it'll set your speed, which is fine. But I would rather have control over the throttle at all times. Now, if I want to get rid of the cruise control, I can hit the brakes or I can hit the throttle, but it gives me a jolt and it'll stop the bike. I would almost rather just get rid of the cruise control and have full control myself.